Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's live stream, which is my American Whiskey of the Year. I'm doing things a little differently, but as people are coming in, let's just kind of hang out for a second and tell me what's in your glass. What are you drinking tonight? I got 10 really great whiskeys coming up to do, for my blind tasting. We have a lot of really cool things ahead. Looks like Dan Lenz is having some JTS Brown 100 proof. So got the bottle and bond in the house. That's some good stuff, Dan. That's some good stuff. Brendan Hogan is having the latest batch of Smoke Wagon. Nice. Looks like Doug Pendleton is telling everyone to hit the like button. You know what? Doug's a very loyal moderator, very helpful, all the time helping out. And the fact is, if you hit the like button right now, it helps my algorithm within the algorithm overlords, what YouTube is looking at. So hit the like button, comment early, comment often. Now, we're only allowing subscribers to comment or members to comment. Reason being, it keeps out some of the riffraff. Usually when I have one of these big live streams, people like to get political and weird in the chat, and we don't want any of that. So that's one way to kind of limit some of that. We do have several moderators in the chat, so be mindful of that. They're pretty cool. They're pretty cool. The moderators are pretty cool. Watchman's having some barrel dovetail. Love it. Jonathan's got Elijah Craig 18-year. Nice. That's always good. Eric Kramer is having some my 9/11 pick with Nashville Barrel Company. That's awesome. Love to know your thoughts on it. Power of Bourbon Barrel Batch 32. Boy, they just keep those batches coming out, don't they? Those batches just keep on trucking. Keep on trucking. Kurt Colson's having the my barrel pick that he and I did together, the Four Roses OESF. You know what's crazy about OESF is that we did this tasting, and I was like, yeah, F yeast is my favorite yeast. It's like my favorite yeast from Four Roses. And I said that going in, I was like, but I'll try not to pick it, and we didn't get told what the yeast were. And that was my favorite. So I'm a sucker for the F yeast. Brad Conway, of course, he's from Detling. I wonder if he's got some Detling in his glass. Jeremy is drinking some Dry Fly wheated whiskey. Nice. Now, Dry Fly is a really great distillery in Washington. They did not make the list this year, but, it's quite good. Alan Bishop's having some of his own medicine. Of course, he's the master distiller for Spirits of French Lake, so you gotta hand it to him. He's doing all right, drinking his own stuff. Todd Will is drinking Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper. Interesting, Todd. Okay. Brian Seabury's having 2021 birthday bourbon. That one made the top 100. It is doing really, really well. I think it's going to do really, really well this year. DL says having some Nika from the barrel. Love it. Johnny, can I watch even though I'm doing dry January? Absolutely, you can watch. Absolutely, you can, Johnny. And you know what? I applaud anyone who does dry January. I'm not one of those. I used to be kind of curmudgeon-y about it, but these days I'm very pro for it. I'm pro for anyone, doing what gets them in the best of health, So I think the pandemic changed my mind about a lot of things, and that's one of them. So kudos to you for doing dry January. I wish you the best on that. It looks like Jory's having some Russell's Reserve. Jeffrey Flanagan's Four Roses single barrel. Nice. Whiskey Juice, the Coy Hill, the Jack Daniel's Coy Hill, 144 proof. Matthew is having a Maker's Mark Fay release, which every time I see that, I think of the FAE. I think of the of True Blood with the Fay there. Brandon says, looking forward to tonight. Appreciate it. Appreciate that. I'm excited about this. As you all keep talking about how tonight's going, or what you're drinking tonight, I want to kind of address a few things. This is all live, so none of this is pre-recorded. As you see me, like if you came and threw a brick through my office window, which please don't do that, you would probably see the brick hit me in the head. In fact, it's so live that next door they were doing construction. I had to go and tell them not to do it because it was really throwing me off. Now we have some really cool graphics and everything set up, but that's not how tonight was supposed to go. Tonight was actually going to be live streamed inside a Total Wine with a few YouTube members inside there, and being able to taste along with me and everything. Unfortunately, my production team got COVID, and so that changed everything. So we had to change the production of it back to my office, and the graphics that you are going to see are courtesy of my incredible video editor, Jason Latiel, and I hope I always butcher his last name, but he is awesome. All the cool graphics that you all see, Jason does that. So I want to give a big shout out to him. A big shout out to Keith Koenig. Keith does all the like images and logos and things like that for me. He does an incredible job. And so, he wasn't able to come down. Hope he's feeling better. And of course, Allison DeLand, she's a moderator here tonight, but Allison is basically, is my everything. She is the rock, the glue, that keeps my company going. So big shout out to Allison. Thank you so much. So, this is I have been picking a whiskey of the year since 2010. So since 2010, I've been picking a whiskey of the year. Now, formerly they were with publications like Tasting Panel or Whiskey Advocate or Forbes. But in 2019, I started to produce them here. I started putting them on YouTube. And I always thought it would be really cool if a critic kind of showed themselves live as they were, picking their whiskeys. And in years past, the first year we had like 50 blind samples, and I messed up like the numbers or something. I mean, I drank even though I was spitting, I was like I was a little like, well, maybe I shouldn't have had 50. Last year I produced it, and like I did it in chunks, and some of them were like pre-recorded and I would play it. And even then it was like, too much. So this year I was planning to do it like kind of like a pared down, like top 15, top 20. And then the tornadoes hit. This was originally going to be a December production, and the tornadoes hit in Western Kentucky, and there was not a bourbon lover who didn't find themselves wanting to completely shift gears, change everything they were doing to help. So my team, along with Bourbon Crusaders and Kentucky Distillers Association, basically dedicated all of December, and we're still, processing orders and making sure everyone gets fulfilled and all that sort of thing. We stopped everything we were doing to do the Kentucky bourbon benefit, and we raised more than $3.4 million. More than $3.4 million through a bourbon auction that we actually live streamed right here on this channel. And so that is why we punted this to the first of the year. And I decided to, during that time, I was thinking a lot about what I want to do. And see, earlier last year, I started a spirits competition called the American Spirits Council of Tasters. And that's where panels such as myself, Peggy Stevens, Clay Risen, Lou Bryson, high-level tasters that I consider, peers and just absolutely great people. I had them, we tasted and we chose like best of, best bourbon, best whiskey, best tequila. There was even, it's a spirits competition, so vodka even like, snuck in there. Oddly though, there was not a lot of vodka entrants. I wonder why. But I wanted to change the format of my whiskeys of the year. In years past, I did stuff like best non-Kentucky bourbon, which went to Spirits of French Lick last year. And I also felt like it was time to put the craft distillers in the same bucket as regular distillers, or as like large scale distillers. I think what's happening in craft whiskey right now this year is a really great example of it. There's a lot of variety in here. There's also some source products in here that people are like, there are a lot of there's a lot of variety in my top 100, and it is mostly how what I think of, like their color, the nose, the taste, and the finish. It's mostly that. But there are a lot of things in this list, and I'll talk about them as I am going through them, that are that excite me, and I push their higher ranking because of how much they excite me and how much they can change a category. Like there's two products that come to mind when I think about like kind of like game changers in here. There's a lot of them, and they're both ryes. I love the rye category, but there's a peated rye in here, and then there is a malted rye in here that I just am absolutely in love with. And that love, that passion for those particular whiskeys definitely show in my ranking. So I have already ranked the 100 through number 11, and I will be putting up screens here shortly, where those are ranked out. I will then blind taste the top 10. Now, I do not know what the top 10 are. You will actually get a ticker of all the rankings while I am blind tasting, and you will be able to see what I am tasting. And I will put this little board right here over my computer screen, so I will not see the ticker. I have not seen what is inside here. And so when I do my top 10 tasting, I will not know what I am tasting. However, I do know what the top 10 are, but I will not know which one they are in individual glasses. And now I'll show you. I'm going to pull up my second camera here and show you what you will be looking. This is what I will be tasting later on. Let's see if I can get this thing going here. Come on now. Yeah, it's not working. Anyway, it's I have these little vials like this that are going to be tasted later on. Now, so that's a little bit of how tonight is going to work. But this was originally going to be at a Total Wine, and that's something very exciting to talk about. I am going to be doing a collaboration with Total Wine, and I was going to kind of kick it off there, kind of like talk about a little bit about what I'm doing. So stay tuned to hear more about that from me. But some cool things that you'll be seeing from me regarding Total Wine. So that's really, really exciting. Another thing that I'm really excited about, I am back in the in-person events. So the live and in-person events, I've got a lot more coming up. Be expecting a blind bourbon tour. And if you're in a city that you really would like to see me, and you really think that, we can pack the house, put it in the comment section. If you want blind bourbon to come to your city or a city near you, put it in the comment section. We're watching that, and we are putting a tour together that will take place throughout 2022. We will be in Pittsburgh on January 20th. Those tickets have actually been selling fast. I really had no idea how much people in Pittsburgh loved a good drink of whiskey. But how blind bourbon goes is there are blindfolds that go on, and there is a lot of interaction, and I teach you how to taste like a pro and all kinds of stuff. So it's a lot of fun, so put that into the comment section of where you would like to see me go. We have people taking note that will be definitely checking that out. Also, this is a spirits ranking. So I am a spirits professional. I have worked in this industry for 15 years. I produce events. I have podcasts where brands participate in. I do a lot of stuff. So if you want to go into the description, you will find a disclosure section. Check that out. Make sure you look at that. And now I want to jump into this. I see. Before I jump into this, I'm going to throw it out there. Does anybody have any questions? Ask me any questions before I start the ranking. I'm going to drink some water, actually, all that talking. So Brandon's talking Birmingham. Alabama will be a fun one if I can ever do an Alabama event because of those crazy laws in Alabama. But as I am about to jump into it, I do ask that you hit the like button. Hitting the like button helps me with the algorithm. If you're not a subscriber yet, please click subscribe. That will be your only way to join the chat tonight. So click subscribe, hit the like button, and let's do this. Okay, so here we go. How this is going to work. We are going to start with, we're going to go in groups of 10, starting with 100. So here is the group of 10, 100 through 90. And as you can see here, we have started with Balcones is at 100. It's been a good year for Balcones. Their wheated bourbon was really exceptional this year. Really caught my attention at the American Spirits Council of Tasters. I was really, really impressed with their wheated bourbon this year. Also, a big fan at number 99, Banner Wheat Whiskey. Wheat whiskey is a category that doesn't get a lot of love. I think this particular product could help change that game. Fort Hamilton Double Barrel, folks. This is one of the better double oak finishes, double barrel finishes of the year. Coming in at 98. Very, very pleased with that one. Number 97, a historic moment, a historic release. A Maryland Bottled and Bond. Sagamore Spirit has brought back the Bottled and Bond to Maryland. So big win right there for Sagamore Spirit. Legend Single Barrel at number 96. They did extremely well in the American Spirits Council of Tasters. I also personally polished off a couple bottles. Legends is fantastic. And I found that their single barrel line to be quite exciting. At number 95, the Whiskey Acres Maple Finish. If you like maple syrup, get you that bottle fast. It is good. At number 94, Elijah Craig B521. I thought this was a disappointing year for Elijah Craig barrel proofs, but these, there are two of them on this list, and still good enough to round out in the top 100. At number 93, Buzzard's Roost Toasted Barrel. Folks, this is coming from Jason Bronner out of Bourbon's Bistro. He's an iconic, historic person in the world of bourbon. At number 92, Cutwater Devil Share. This is sitting on shelves everywhere. I think it's a pretty high price point, but it is coming out of San Diego, California. And Cutwater Devil Share is really, really tasty, especially if you love some of those more grain-centric notes. Grand Teton Corn Whiskey and Wilderness Trail Bottled and Bond round it out. The Wilderness Trail Bottled and Bond is always going to be a winner. Rounds it out there at number 90. But I want to say, of that list, that first grouping of 100, one of them that really stands out for me is the Grand Teton Corn Whiskey. That corn whiskey category is one I'd like to see more movement in. I'd like to see a lot more people jump into the jump into the corn whiskey movement. Corn whiskey is a category that doesn't get a lot of love, and I feel like it should definitely be getting more love than it is right now. Now I see a lot of people coming in and commenting about where they'd like to see me. Henry, I will tell you, Little Rock is in the process of getting worked out, so I will be coming to Little Rock. All right, so you've seen that list, the first 10. Put in the chat what you agree with, what you disagree with, what do you like. I can already tell someone dislikes it. YouTube no longer shows the down buttons, but we've already got a dislike. I think that's good. I like dislike buttons. They help me understand what works and what doesn't. And by the way, it doesn't hurt the algorithm. So whether you like it or love this video, click the like button, especially. That helps other people find this video. So now let's go to the next list, and that will be 89 to 90. And at 84, you got Boone County Wheated. So we've had Kentucky Peerless at 89, Davies at 88, 87 is Iron Root, 86 Pinhook Bourbon. Absolutely delicious. At 85, Old Elk. Old Elk is one that continues to wow me in blind tastings. I noticed that my mute was I muted myself there. I caught it. Sorry about that. But construction, what are you going to do? At 83, King's Family Tennessee Bourbon. King's Family's got a lot of good releases. I think this Tennessee Bourbon is right up there. But that one that they're kind of known for is a light whiskey. But I kind of gave the edge to the Tennessee Bourbon. I thought that this is one of the better Tennessee bourbons that we saw this year. Woodinville Sherry Finish, always solid. St. Augustine Port Finished, and 291 Colorado Whiskey E Batch 8. Now, you may recall in past episodes, me drinking a lot of 291. They're on the show a lot. They support the show. But this 291E is a blend of malt and wheat whiskey. Really exceptional. But you'll notice in that listing, we had two finishes. We had a Woodinville port finish, and we had a St. Augustine finish. I think what you are seeing with a lot of these new distillers is that they are finding where their bourbons do well in finishes. And this has been a great year. 2021 was an incredible year for barrel finishes. And I love barrel finishes. And I'm excited to say that the federal government is actually looking into giving a very specific and narrowly tailored definition. I have sources that have told me that they will see that cleaned up, the language of barrel finishes here, very soon. So as a reminder, when we go into the live tasting portion, you will see all of the products that were ranked and what I am drinking. There's going to be an actual ticker at the bottom, but that will not start until we get to my top 10. Actually, I can get rid of that. Get that out of the way right now. So, all right. So here we go. We are now going to the next grouping. The next grouping, which is 79 to 70. And with this grouping, we start off with Virginia Distillery's Courage and Conviction. Courage and Conviction is a malt that is it kind of. At first, I didn't like it. I didn't like it as much as I did some of the others, but their latest batches have been really exceptional. And this is the final Elijah Craig on here. I thought at 78, Elijah Craig C921 was far stronger than its other one this year. But again, I thought this was a soft year for Elijah Craig. At 77, our winner of Best Kentucky non-Kentucky Bourbon last year, Spirits of French Lick, which has 2 products on the list this year. Spirits of French Lick's William Dalton comes in at 77. At number 76, Booker's 2104. At 75, Doc Swinson's Alter Ego. Really love that one. And maybe a shocker for a lot of folks out here, but I'm telling you, the stuff coming out of Green River, the whiskey coming out of Green River, which is where Bradshaw Bourbon's coming from, Green River is putting out some amazing product, and they strapped their Terra Sencha stuff. They got rid of all their rapid aging, and now they're just focusing on bourbon production. And Bradshaw Bourbon Batch 4 is fantastic. 73, Kings County Distillery Empire Rye, historic rye whiskey right there from New York. At number 72, Spirit Works Distillery Straight Rye Whiskey. 71, Nelson's Greenbrier Tennessee Whiskey. And another Iron Root on the list in Hubris. Now, there's a few things to talk about here from this list. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have 6 craft distillers in here, what we would consider craft distillers. And then you have two very prominent independent source whiskey purveyors. So when you look at the meat of if we were to look at this as the NCAA tournament, you're kind of looking at some 6 to 10 seeds right there. So that group was filled with new rising star talent in American whiskey. And that, like I was saying before, I think I get as excited about these whiskeys right here as I do my top 10, because you can see the future in them. And Spirits of French Lick, absolutely crushing it. The Virginia Distillery, absolutely crushing it. So a lot of good whiskey in there on that list. And so now we are going to go to the next grouping, which is 69 to 60. Now with 69 to 60, we're getting into some territory where there's a lot of really good stuff here. And some of these whiskeys could win an actual competition. Could actually become a champion in a whiskey tasting. At 69, the Lone Elm Wheat Whiskey, this is one of the best whiskeys released, in the last few years. This is excellent wheat whiskey. Wheat whiskey is a category that I always talk about not really being what it could be, but it's just a category it's in its infant stages in the contemporary sense. At 68, Whiskey Acres Blue Popcorn Bourbon, folks, that's delicious. If you wanna jump out on the edge a little bit with your whiskey drinking styles, you'll like that one. The Lee W. Sinclair 4-grain bourbon bottled in bond, also from Spirits of French Lick. That's two from Spirits of French Lick in the top 100. So congratulations. My first real recognition of a Horse Soldier product. I've given them a lot of reviews, and I actually like their least expensive one. This released from the spring of 2021 is their Horse Soldier Premium. This one's come knocking on the clock, I think, knocking on the door, I think around $40. Milam & Green is blended by my good friend Heather Green. Absolutely talented blender. She and I, we came up the same time in whiskey. She started as as a brand ambassador for Glenfiddich and was did all kinds of sommelier-ships throughout New York. And so Heather Green is now a blender in Texas, and she's crushing it. Old Line single malt Madeira finish. I always talk about this, but when I'm having conversations with the distiller, and they ask me if I like something, I will tell them straight to their face, I don't like something. I had this conversation with Old Line earlier this year in a live stream in my member community, and I told them I didn't like a particular product, but I did like their Madeira finish. We do have a typo there. Madeira's got an I in it, but that happens sometimes. But Old Line Madeira finish is absolutely delicious. At 63, now you might know this company from me doing a lot of barrel picks with them, but Nashville Barrel Company is a brand on the rise. They're new. They are invested in philanthropy and the bourbon community, but you don't make this list unless you have good whiskey. What James and Mike are doing over there at Nashville Barrel Company, they're really good blenders. Speaking of blenders, Bardstown Bourbon Company is right up there with the best of them in the world. And the Fusion number 5 I thought was fantastic this year. Here's the thing, I didn't like previous Fusions, but I love this year's Fusion. At 61, 4-Gate Ruby Rye Batch 11. That was so good. And 60, this is one, New Riff Red Turkey Wheated. This is one that I think could really win. The New Riff Red Turkey Wheated could really win a competition. It's that good. But, when you were putting together a list of 100, you have to make some decisions. And New Riff has more products in here, but I thought that one was excellent. And 60 is a very good spot for it. But I will admit, it's good enough that it could win. San Francisco or the Ascots. But you got to remember, this is a single list. It's a single list by a single person. And so, if this was a panel, it would be completely different. It would be so completely different. So now let's go to the next range, which is 59 through 50. Now, when we get into this one, we're gonna start getting into some Apex brands, and you're also going to see some brands that you may not have ever heard about before. Barrel Batch 28 is excellent. Comes in at 59. Larceny C921. I thought all the Larcenies released this year were very, very similar. And if I was going on taste alone, I probably would have put them all on there, but they would have been all very close. But one thing I'm very wary of that's going on right now in American whiskey, and I want to make sure that I don't reward it, is that the multiple batches of the exact same thing being released. And what I mean by that, there are companies that are getting 15, 20-year-old source whiskey, and they're releasing it every single year as a different batch. So I just want to make sure when I know about that, or if something tastes the same to me, I want to make sure I reward the product, but not all three of them in a line extension, if you will. At 57, Jefferson's Reserve Pritchard Hill Cabernet Cask Finish. Say that 3 times fast. Really good. I'm not a big cab fan in the finishing, but I feel like Jefferson's is really finding its own with finishing with wine barrels. At 56, I came real close to just drinking this all in a weekend. The O.H. Ingram River Aged flagship. My brother-in-law came over for the holidays, and we got to sipping on this. We're like, holy crap, this is good. I mean, I knew it was good, but when you're sitting by a fire and everything just tastes better when you're outside and by a fire. But do not skip on the Ingram River Age flagship. That thing is good. I would buy that right away. Anytime I see that in a store, I'm going to buy it. At 55, Dad's Hat Bottled and Bond. Folks, what Dad's Hat is doing in Pennsylvania, they are bringing back Pennsylvania rye whiskey. And this is they were in the hunt last year for best rye. This year they make the list at 55. At 54, Augusta Buckner, a 13-year-old. I wasn't very rewarding of a lot of the source products this year. A lot of them were very close. I thought that this Buckner one was very solid for that 13-year mark, so kudos to them. At 53, the Westland Peat Week. Now, this thing is already sold out everywhere, but if you are a peat fan, you will enjoy it. At 52, just hitting the shelves, I think very much toward the end of the last quarter last year. Westward Cask Strength Single Malt. If you like chewy kind of oatmeal notes and some depth from an American malt, this is going to be a winner for you. At 51, Blue Run Kentucky Straight High Rye Bourbon. This is one that Jim Rutledge has his handprint. You know, this is his baby. And, you know, Jim Rutledge is in the Hall of Fame. He's an amazing distiller. And at 50, one of the whiskeys I am most excited about, Liberty Pole Peated Rye Whiskey. And let me tell you why I get so giddy about the Liberty Pole Peated Rye Whiskey coming in at 50. And I want you to take a look at all those whiskeys that Liberty Pole beat to be right there, kind of like dead center of my list of top 100. They beat a lot of big-time whiskeys. And I feel like there have not been many American distillers who have been able to nail the flavor of peat in their styles of whiskey. Of course, peat is used in Scotch. It's been used in American whiskey by accident at first. At Kings County, we've seen a lot of people play around with it. But I thought Liberty Pole did something that no one had done before, and that was absolutely add the nuance of peat without losing the expression of the rye. And that is one of the most exciting things I have seen in American whiskey in a long, long time. So that Liberty Pole peated rye, if you can find it, get it. But they're a small distiller, and you know I don't know how many bottles they have in the market. So now we're going in past 50. We're going to 49 through 40. At number 49, Foregate Bluegrass Trilogy 3. Foregate, man, they do incredible blending, but they're coming in all at cask strength. But they're not doing cask strength that, you know, it's just to knock the socks off, right? They're doing it to actually add quality. Here's another one, folks. Hard Truth Sweet Mash Rye Batch 1. I say that again, Batch 1. That is amazing. I have never in my career seen a new distiller put out a first batch of a product, and it be so good. This is amazing. So this win here at 48 for Hard Truth just shows you what is in store for this incredible Indiana distiller. At 47, Penelope 4-grain cask strength. YouTube members may remember me salivating over this one, but totally delicious. At 46, Smooth Ambler Old Scout 5-year-old. They brought back the Old Scout line, and it's 5-year-old Indiana bourbon that's had just a touch of time in West Virginia as well. Very good. Blood Oath Pack 7 coming in at 45. I think this might be my favorite Blood Oath, and this is a Finnish series that is from Luxco. I have not always been a fan of this one. this product line. But this year I thought they really crushed it. At 44, Rabbit Hole Boxer Grail. I mean, this thing sold out in 5 seconds. It is absolutely fantastic. I first tasted it when I was doing my 24-hour live, or my staying the night at Rabbit Hole. For those who remember, I actually stayed the night at Rabbit Hole and live streamed a fermentation because I was bored. True story. At 43, Kings County Cask Strength. This did extremely well at the American Spirits Council of Tasters, my competition, the Ascots. At 42, Kentucky Senator 15-year-old. If you follow me on Twitter or other places, you may recall that I put out a tweet a while back that said that a broker acquired a lot of 15-year-old former Jim Beam bourbon and put it out in the brokerage world. And I have I tasted almost all of them, and I thought the Kentucky Senator 15-year-old, out of all those 15-year-olds, I thought this one was the best. And again, going back to my list with kind of how I put it together, I didn't put those other ones in on the list. I wanted to pick just one of those, and it was Kentucky Senator. At 41, Chattanooga whiskey, bottled and bond. That is a absolutely delicious product, and you watch out for Chattanooga whiskey, folks. Chattanooga whiskey is knocking on the door. They're doing great things. Great things. At number 40, Sweetens Cove. This is a very particular one. This is their batch 2. I like their second batch, and more than I liked their first batch, which was last year. So I was a big fan of that, and I'll tell you too that last year when I interviewed Peyton Manning and his brother Cooper, and I said, man, you guys are too expensive. If these guys could drop their price, I think a lot more people would like Sweetens Cove. But I did not take into consideration for this list, with the exception of not considering the Pappy Van Winkle line. I did not take price into consideration. So, and I know, sometimes that is, that's the thing with any list, is it's not going to be perfect. But so that's in terms of that list of that 49 through 40, the one that really gets me excited to see the future. It's definitely going to be that Hard Truth Sweet Mash Rye. Making rye whiskey is hard in itself because it over foams a lot of times, and to do it as a sweet mash technique is really taking a gamble. To release it as your first batch, it's a huge gamble. But he really did a good job with that rye. We're a little bit past the halfway point of the list, and I can tell that before I get to the top 10, I'm going to have to hit the head. But if you haven't yet, hit the like button. It's going to help me when people find this video. And also, it's a mandatory thing that all YouTubers say, hit the like button, subscribe. No, I'm just kidding. They don't make us, but they do tell us to do that all the time. And it's annoying, but I think it's more annoying for us to do it than for you all to receive it. But if you could hit that like button, it would go a long way for me, and I'd really appreciate it. So now let's get into, we hit the top 40. Now let's get into that 39 through 30 frame. Okay, so here are the numbers of 39 through 30. Blackened Cask Strength at 39. I picked this up at a Kroger, and it was awesome. Absolutely awesome. And, there's not a lot of these out on the market, but Batch 106 was absolutely delicious. Absolutely delicious. At 38, High Plains Rye. This is the rye that Jim Rutledge is a part of. Big fan of that. At 37, I think this is a game-changing whiskey. I think Detling 72-month Alabama bourbon is one that is so delicious. It's so complex and has so many unique flavors in there. And it's because of their warehousing techniques there in Alabama. And by techniques, I mean hot as shit. It gets really hot there. And I remember they took a photo of the temperature in their warehouse, and it was like 142 degrees. I mean, I couldn't imagine. I mean, it might actually explode in there for all I know. But Detling 72 month, this is awesome stuff, and it's a incredible product to support. So if you can find it, support them. But to me, 37 is a great spot for that. At 36, Uncle Nearest Masters Blend. Look, Uncle Nearest has won a lot of awards and done really, really well. But for me, this year, their best product was their Masters Blend coming out of their gift shop. At 35, Huber's Starlight Distillery Single Barrel. They won Best Craft Whiskey at the American Spirits Council of Tasters. I just picked a barrel from Huber's, and I have found their single barrels to be absolutely fantastic. I did consider single barrels for this. I did not consider, rare limited single barrels as much as I did like mainstay ones. And this one was absolutely fantastic. The Barrel Batch 27, another great one from Barrel. At 33, probably a disappointment, for me this year for Four Roses, but it was still good enough to make it in the top 40 at 33. The Four Roses limited edition small batch, absolutely delicious. Smoke Wagon Uncut Batch 25, that hits at 32. I will say that Smoke Wagon is a product that he puts out a lot, and as a taster, it's hard to sometimes keep up with a very fast moving brand like that that's always putting out so many products. So I'm sure I'm woefully behind on my Smoke Wagon tastings, but I thought Batch 25 was epic. I thought it was fantastic. At number 31, a historic product in the Leopold Brothers 3-chambered rye. At number 30, the Yellowstone Armagnac finish. And I just want to say an Armagnac flavor profile can be really overpowering. You've got to do it you got to finish it just right. And I thought what Yellowstone did there was fantastic. So now let's go to the next. We're going to break into the 20s. This is going to be 29 through 20. Okay, so 29 through 20. At 29, Jefferson's Rye, the cognac finish. The cognac finish from Jefferson's bourbon, Jefferson's whiskey, Jefferson's spirits, whatever we're calling them these days. This was one of the best cognac finishes I'd ever tasted. 28, A. Smith Bowman Cask Strength. I think this is one that could win. This could win any spirits competition. It's a fantastic product. 27, Michter's 10-year-old rye. This is a game changer for Kentucky ryes, in my opinion. It has the potential to kind of help push over some of the stigma that people have for Kentucky ryes. Maker's Mark, I just want to throw this out there that they hit a home run with this series. This series is an absolutely home run, but I'd still like to see a 12-year-old bourbon from them. I mean, who wouldn't want to see a 12-year-old cask strength Maker's Mark? I mean, sign me up. At 25, Garrison Brothers Laguna Madre, and they are a distillery in Texas that are doing all the right bourbon things, and I think they're doing a fantastic job at Garrison Brothers. They won Craft Distiller of the Year at the Ascots. At 24, Barrel Batch 30. Barrel has a lot on here because Barrel does a lot of really great blends. They're really great blenders, and it shows. At number 23, the collaboration between Dickel and Leopold Brothers, the 3-chamber collaboration. I can't say enough good things about this one. If you were to ask me to pick a top 5 most excited ones that I am about this batch or on of this list, this would be one of them, and it's because of the future that this style has. Stag Junior Batch 16 at number 22. Stag Junior Batch 16 at number 22. At 21, I would say probably a disappointing year for a lot of people who will get the William LaRue Weller this year, but it's still worthy of being in the top 25. William LaRue Weller at 21. I did a tasting with this, and I thought it was definitely off in comparison to other years. And Parker's Wheat Whiskey coming in at 20. Wheat whiskey, I always talk about this. Wheat whiskey is not a category, that really does well. And it's because wheat whiskey, when it's distilled, can come off really gummy. It can just come off all wrong. But here it is at number 20, and it could have been in the top 10, but that was really close. But as I look at this list, you're looking at 2 craft distillers in here, in Leopold Brothers and Garrison Brothers. So think about that for a second. Is that you are seeing a big push in my list and things that I like, things that are exciting me, things that are hitting my palate the right way, from smaller distillers. So these are not the distillers that are conglomerates. These are small companies. And I think we have seen the tide turn for craft whiskey. And I think it's not because people are just supporting them. I think they're making really, really good whiskey. So right before I go into the next round, which is the teens, and then I'll jump into the top 10, I gotta ask you to jump in here, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't. It's going to help with the algorithmic overlords, and I appreciate you tuning in. So here we go. Here's the last round of this style of the ranking. From here, I'll go into the blind tasting, 19 through 11. Now, these are products that could have been top 10 in themselves. Everything on here could have won Whiskey of the Year for somebody, and everything on here was fantastic. And it's hard to put together a list. It's hard to do these things, but you have to make when you do the rankings, you have to do them. And at 19, Thomas Handy Rye, I thought it was fantastic. I mean, hell, it could win a lot of competitions. At 18, Michter's 10-year-old bourbon. This is making a lot of people's whiskey of the year. So if you take a look, a lot of the lists that are going around, Michter's 10-year-old bourbon is just crushing it. My best rye for last year is the Sazerac. This was like 2020. In 2020, Sazerac won. This 18-year-old won my best rye. But it comes in at 17 this year. At 16, the Blue Note 17-year-old. I mean, I could drink this all day long. The 17-year-old is just so delicious. It's so good. But at 15, that New Riff malted rye, I still cannot think of what that note is. I don't know what that note is. But that malted rye from New Riff, just absolutely outstanding. At 14 and 13, these things, I mean, they're obviously not identical. They're obviously not identical because they couldn't do that by law. But the Bottled and Bond here, spring and fall, 11 years, they were just so close for me. And so I just thought I would, throw them in here as one over the other. But I ended up liking the fall release a little bit more. a little bit more. My favorite Bookers of the night, or of the 2021 season, was Booker's 21-3. This was fantastic. And in fact, I know that's going to be what my wife wants, after this live stream. She loves Bookers, and this thing was absolutely delicious. Really close. Almost made my top 10. Almost made it. And it just didn't have it to get in there. And that's the Wild Turkey Master's Keep one. And I'll tell you, Wild Turkey is a product that it's just fantastic. And the Master's Keep one is right there, in my opinion, with the best out there. And it just did not have enough of it there for me to overtake the other one from Wild Turkey that did make my list. So now I am going to share with you the top 10. I'm going to share with you now my top 10, and I'm going to take a break, and I'm going to start the ticker, and I'm going to put this guy up right here on my computer so I can't see the ticker. But as I am talking, you will be able to see that. So if you have any questions, if you have any comments in here that you want me to answer before I go into the blind tasting, please put them in now. So my top 10, here we go. Russell's Reserve 13-year-old. Russell's Reserve 13-year-old. When I tasted that for the first time, it stopped me dead in my tracks. Absolutely fantastic. Angel's Envy Madeira Cask Strength. This is a product that I think is probably the greatest Madeira finish in American whiskey history. And granted, there's not a lot of Madeira finishes in American whiskey, but it's awesome. Jack Daniel's 10-year-old. I can't say enough good things about what's happening at Jack Daniel's, and their 10-year-old makes my top 10. Little Book, Chapter 5. I have been historically very much not a fan of Little Book, but this one I got to tell you, Chapter 5 was absolutely awesome. Old Forester Birthday Bourbon. Big fan of that one. You all saw me kind of going like, it's just so good, so delicious. I love that one so much, and I'm really excited to see, how it does in this blind tasting coming up. Eagle Rare 17-year-old from the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection. Eagle Rare 17-year-old from Buffalo Trace. Bardstown Bourbon Company's Triple Stave Finish. So Bardstown Bourbon Company's Triple Stave. This was a distillery only release, and it's so complicated, so delicious, absolutely incredible. Remus Reserve V Series or 5. So Remus Repeal Reserve made my top 10, and one that is going to be a shock to probably everybody. It is an 8-year-old Kentucky bourbon that's a source whiskey connected to a celebrity, and that is Kuiper Belt. Kuiper Belt Kentucky bourbon. It's an 8-year-old, and that is from E40's portfolio. I first tasted that with Bailey Morgan on my podcast, and then I tasted it again with E40, and have just I really think it's the best source whiskey of 2021. I'm also a big sucker for 8-year-old Kentucky bourbon. Really a big sucker for that. So what I'm going to do now, folks, I am going to take a quick bathroom break, jump back in, and I'm going to show you. I am going to show you what you all are. Let's see. Am I able to pull that up? I don't think it's not popping up. Okay. No, it's not working. Dadgummit. I had a second camera that I was going to show you all the the glasses and everything. But so you can see they are all numbered like this, A, and then the glasses are numbered as well. But I am going to I'm going to hit the head real quick. But if you all would be so kind, hit the like button, talk in the chat about what you're excited about, what you think's going to win, and when we get back, I am going to be hopping on with the blind tasting. All right, y'all, I'm back. All right, I'm back. I had to go to the little boy's room. David Hall. I went to Iraq with David Hall, and he says, "Hitting the head, just watch for mortars." I thought that was funny. Okay, so we have a few funny comments in here, and what I'm going to do now, get your questions in. Looks like I lost a few people when I went to the bathroom. Sorry, couldn't, you got to nature calls. But so let's see if we had any good questions in here. Yeah, a lot of people saying Remus. A lot of people pulling for Remus here. A lot of people pulling for Remus. So here we go. What you are going to see what I am tasting as I am tasting. And you're going to see the top 100 as well. I am going to be actually jumping into I'm going to be jumping into the tasting as we speak. I will not be able to see your comments. I am not going to be able to react to you in the event of the ticker not working. Allison DeLand has the product number so you will see my products that I'm tasting are labeled like this, so it's like glass A, and you will see in the ticker down below what the glass is. I will also have the top 100 in the rankings. I will not see these because they will be toward the end, and I'm putting this up over it, and the ticker is going to begin now. And so now you have a ticker. You all see that. It will not get to the top 10 for a while, but just everybody, let's confirm. Let's confirm that you have that you are seeing this. So how it's going to work tonight. I'm going to taste these top 10, or I'm going to taste these 10 products, and then I am going to rank them. I'm going to rank them into the top 10, and I will not know what they are until the very end. Right here, like that. So I will open this up. You all will know what I'm tasting before I do. So everybody is seeing the ticker. Ticker's looking good. All right, here we go. Oof. I cannot see your comments anymore. The computer. I cannot see the anything. It is just the camera. So here we go. I'm going to start with glacé. What I do here when I'm looking at a ranking like this, we are really looking at like I'm going to start with pouring everything. But what I first do is I want to go through and nose. I'm not taking notes. This is all going to be in my head. But I'm going to go through and pour all of these. First round, I'm going to nose everything and just kind of make some general comments. Just so you know, I mentioned this before, but I have been picking a whiskey of the year since 2010. And in that time frame, I have picked it for Tasting Panel magazine, which is founded by Anthony Diaz Blue and Meredith May. That was really the magazine where I kind of really got in the trenches. When you start your career, you need to have somewhere that you can, learn. And that was it for Tasting Panel, was that for me. I did a lot of wine for them. I wrote everything from limoncello, to bourbon and like all sorts of wine. And of course, Kentucky being my backyard, I became their bourbon correspondent. So if you ever want to find some of my old work, just go to Tasting Panel's website, and you'll find a bunch of old stuff there from like 2008 to 2011. So I did. I would pick my whiskeys of the year for Tasting Panel, and then I became a part of the team of Whiskey Advocate. And Whiskey Advocate was very different than Tasting Panel. Tasting Panel was a trade publication, and Whiskey Advocate is a consumer-facing publication. John Hansel, Lou Bryson were mentors of mine, and we would pick a whiskey of the year. And the one that I was really excited about during that time with Whiskey Advocate was Booker's Rye. And Booker's Rye ended up being like one of my favorite things ever. And my wife killed the bottle making whiskey sours. Now, this is a famous story in the YouTube community, but if I have like Booker's Rye around, I get nervous that she's going to make whiskey sours. They're great whiskey sours, don't get me wrong, but you don't make whiskey sours with that. You make it with something else. Then from there, after I left Whiskey Advocate, I started to do a whiskey of the year list for Forbes. And so I did that, but then I just, when you're a media person, you eventually start looking at the bills in your life, and you start looking at what you get paid as a writer, and you're like, I got to make some changes. I got a family, so I decided to, it was better for me to kind of go more into podcasting than writing. And to be honest with you, I make a far, I think podcasting and YouTubing, I make a far greater reach. I'm able to communicate with more people, because this is how people consume information today. And I get more out of YouTube than I ever thought I would. And if you're new to this community, you got to know that this YouTube community saved me during the pandemic. Like when the pandemic started 2 years ago, we're coming up on 2 years. I went from getting furloughed on all my projects and losing like 95% of my income. And the only little things that I had were like Bourbon Pursuit and my little podcast that I had just started, the Fred Minnick Show, and YouTube. And so I decided to go all in and do live streams like every night. And we would do this right here, blind tastings, like and interviews, and it gave me, purpose during a tough time. And this YouTube community saved me. And so I always would like to point that out. This is my American Whiskey of the Year is always a big moment. And when I started to do the live streaming with my whiskeys of the year, this is my third one to do. And we slowly figured out what to work on, how to improve it. And I feel like this year is exactly how I want to do it moving forward. Rank my top 100 and then live taste my top 10. And it begins now. I'm going to start with, like I said, going through and nosing everything. I'm going to get arrange a little bit differently. And although I cannot see anything, no one can communicate to me. I do have an avenue for, like, if there's an emergency, a break in the feed, or anything like that. I do have an avenue where someone can get to me. But my phone's off, all that stuff. So if this thing ends up like if this thing ends up not panning out, or if it breaks or whatever, we will have results posted on fredminnick.com in the morning, the full ranking of the top 100 in the morning. So, and if you want to break away, get some rest, get some dinner, feel free to knock yourself out. Okay, so Glass A begins. It's very fruity. Very, very fruity. Go to Glass B. Ooh. A little molasses in there. A big old molasses note. Yeah, one brand, I don't think I don't know if I mentioned, I went through the products that made the list, but you should be able to see them in the ticker. And if I missed one, I missed one, but you'll see them in the ticker. And also Allison DeLand, she can tell you what everything is as I am smelling and tasting and everything. All right, Glass C. Kind of spicy smelling. Glass C. I'm looking forward to that one. All right, Glass D. Oh, man. Look at that. Well, that smells like a fruitcake. Good Lord. Fruit and nut cake. Glass E. Oh, man. Just a butter bomb. Ooh, butter and like dried apricot. Ooh. E is really complex smelling. F. F has kind of this just like a really, really rich, like lumberyard smell. Like you can smell like wood chips and stuff in a distance in a good way. Ooh. God, this is going to be hard tonight. I'm going on nose alone. This would be impossible. But that one right there smelled like cinnamon and like hazelnut, like the hazelnut lattes that you would get. So you go into Starbucks. That's for hazelnut latte. You could smell the beans and everything kind of just all in the background. So G smells like Starbucks in a way. Glass H. This has a real like a fresh peanut brittle coming out in a fresh peanut brittle kind of smell, like a Cracker Jacks box opening up. Glass I. Woo! Glass I, bringing it with a chocolate. Damn. Chocolate and coconut on I. I almost went to drinking that one. Glass J. Okay, we got a banana nut bread bomb here. Woo! That smells yummy. All right, so now we're going to go into first taste. And at first taste, I will be able to discern whether or not I want to put something in 10th place. So I will know pretty quickly with this how a tasting competition goes. You know, you spend as much time with the glass as you possibly can, but you got to be quick. You know, you can't just focus on one glass the whole time. because it's taking you away from the other glasses. I want to try and give each glass equal time. I'm going to put about the same amount on my palate. And what I'm going to be focusing on first are how many points of the palate is the whiskey hitting. And what I mean by that is it the tip of the tongue, and like if it's the tip, how many parts on there is it hitting? Is it all around? Is it just in the middle? Is it in the back? Is it middle back? Is it the sides? Some of the greatest bourbons you'll ever taste will hit on your mouth like butter, just kind of drip down underneath the jaw lines. It's all encompassing on mouth coating. And so that is one of the easiest and early ways to kind of move through something. Something can hit on the tip of the tongue and be like fire. It can be just like amazing on the tip of the palate, but it hits nowhere else. But because of that concentration and the beauty on that tip of the palate, it could overcome a full palate butter coating style of bourbon. And the reason why is it's kind of like baseball. Every player has their strength. You got your DH that can hit home runs all day long, but the person cannot field a ground ball. So, you gotta go with what feels right with the whiskey here on that first look. And of course, everything here is great. Everything here made the list for a reason. And so there's not going to be a stinker in the bunch. There's just not. Oh, I also want to say all these products were purchased at retail, with the exception of two. The Angel's Envy Madeira was a press sample, and the Little Book was a press sample. And I purchased these at a bunch of places, Total Wine mostly, and my good friend Max Stoller lent me a pour of Russell's Reserve 13-year-old, and Barrel Seagrass I purchased as well. So, okay, so that's always important to note. Here we go. Glass A, right off the top, all over the palate. And you can feel it on the way down, that little Kentucky hug, right? That little hug coming on all the way down. It's really concentrating in the middle of my throat, and you have taste buds in your throat. You actually have tasting receptors in your belly as well. That thing is just popping on my palate. That's a really, really good whiskey. Glass B, and I will be rinsing my mouth from each tasting to clear my palate a little bit, but that'll be all I'm doing. I just love the way this one smells. It's like friggin' molasses heaven. Oh. Whereas Glass A was all-encompassing on the palate. It was everywhere. Glass B is really a middle palate, savory goodness right in the center. But it's so concentrated. It's so it's so focused on the middle of the palate and just like tearing it up in a good way. You get, you got to say it might be better than an all-encompassing buttery mouthfeel, just the way how intense it is in the middle of the palate. Glass C. This hits the tip of the palate, travels back, and also kind of tickles the roof of the palate a little bit. So you can feel the intensity of it on the roof of your mouth. but it definitely is not as concentrated as glasses A and B. So let's go to D. Glass D. I just love the way this smells. Oh boy. Oh. Some bitch, that's good. This has that a lot of, populating a lot of spice and bitter areas of my tongue, sides of my tongue, dripping off around my cheeks, really lighting up the back palate. I mean, I just started a hot sauce line, and this is like tracing on my tongue like a lot of the hot sauces that I've been tasting. D is just exceptional, absolutely exceptional. Glass E. This has a lot of like graham crackery notes, and graham crackery notes, um, much like a graham cracker, tend to be kind of crumbly, and so these are like just kind of like boom, 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 and then, So um, E is a very different style in terms of how it hits the tongue than the previous four. I would say that E also is a very easy drinker, and you might get in trouble if you had it all night. So let's go to glass F. Wow. That is simply amazing. Simply amazing. There's a brininess to this. There is an herbal quality to it. There is a sweetness to it. F is just friggin' amazing. Glass G. This is going to be a big, thick one. Wow. I was expecting something different. I was expecting like really rich on the tip of the tongue based on the smell, but it comes a little bit more back layered, quite a bit more spice centric. G is a player in the back. Yeah. Go to glass H. Rinse my mouth out here. I like H a lot. And I'll tell you, the most powerful sensation from glass H is how it feels underneath the tongue. Whiskey, when it gets underneath the tongue, it's like it tickles, but it relaxes you. It's like it gets underneath there, and it just like it's like a calming sensation. But it doesn't happen very often. You hear me talk about roof of the palate, sides, front, tip, back, middle, but underneath the tongue is not a usual place for a whiskey to sit. Go to glass I. Oh shit. This is gonna be hard. Wow. Um that is a middle and front palate, just a touch of the back palate, a little bit on the sides, but I have a very difficult job here. This is going to be very, very difficult. Glass J. J kind of approaches like like a savory bread would. Like it's like a banana nut bread for me. So it approaches very much like that. But I think I'm going to go ahead and start making some decisions. Make sure that go back to A. I remember being very wowed by A, and now after going through the flight, it's not as wowing to me. B's definitely going to be a high level contender. Yeah, keep an E. Go to G. I want to go back to J. Just wanted to confirm I wasn't just like a last tasting thing, but remember my first thing was to really focus on like how it's hitting the palate, how many points in the palate is it hitting. Everything hit my palate with intensity. Everything hit my palate with a lot. But when I got to J, and I came back to A, and I think what I'm looking at here is 10th is either going to be J or A. Yeah, so the intensity is definitely there, but it dissipates a little quicker than the others. Yeah, J is going to be 10th place. So I'm going to line that up over there. Move that over here. Make some more room. And I do not know what that is. It was an excellent whiskey, but when you're looking at doing a ranking of this stature, you have to go with you have to kind of start with the points of the palate, and this was a very pronounced, very rich mid palate, big beautiful banana nut bread note in there, and it was really nice, but it just did not have the weight that the others carried. And by weight, I mean kind of like staying on there. You could call it a finish, you can call it whatever you want. But for me, I'm talking about a literal weight in terms of how it feels on the tongue. And Jay just did not have the strength for that. So now I'm taking a closer look at A. Yeah, B, not B, not B, not B, not B. See? D. F. H will be ninth place. H is ninth place. Much like J, a very, very, very nice whiskey. Very much one that deserves to be on this table, but the lasting power on the palate just was not there in comparison to the other ones I was considering for that next spot. So glass H and J are 10. J is 10th, and H is 9th. I keep coming back to A, thinking it's going to be, I'm going to put it next, but then I smell it and it kind of triggers my memory a little bit. It was glass I. Whew. It's going to hit B again. Oh, yeah. Glass C. Glass D. Glass E. F. G. Glass A will be your 8th place. Glass A is your 8th place. And if you are, hopefully this is living up the chat. The chat's going, talking about what won. I'm going to be excited to go and watch the replay of this and see what you say in the chat. So if you want to comment about if you're shocked or what you thought about something finishing there, I'll be very excited to learn that. Now that I have went through the phase of like pressure on the palate or points on the palate, now we're going to look at these are all pretty, the remaining glasses are pretty equal with points on the palate. So now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to go in and I'm going to look for flavor profiles. And what you're doing here, instead of just focusing on what part of the tongue is it hitting, how many points on the tongue is it hitting, you're looking at the prominent flavor. And the prominent flavor can be a myriad of flavors. So it can be a bunch of fruit together. It can be a bunch of nuts together. It could be a caramel bomb. So it does not mean I'm basically going to be going through this and then seeing what flavors, are dominant or balanced or whatever. So essentially I am assessing the combo of flavor profile and balance and complexity here. So, and this is really this is the phase of the tasting where, personal preference can really dominate you as a taster. but you do your best. You really do your best to strip all your personal preferences out and be as objective as possible. But you know, you're only human, and there are some things that I do not like. I fucking hate baked potatoes. Baked potatoes, and it all goes back to when I was a little kid, and I got really sick, and I ate baked potatoes, and ain't really don't haven't eaten one since. So if I taste a baked potato in your whiskey, I mean, you're not going to be on this list. You're not going to be in the top 100 most likely. But that's my personal preference coming up. And maybe, you know, maybe that's a little bit of why I hate vodka so much. It's made out of potatoes. And, you know, we haven't seen Tater in a while. I think Tater should maybe make an appearance again sometime. All right, Glass B. It's a really prominent, dominant molasses note. Really, really like that. But after the molasses note, it doesn't necessarily fall off a cliff, but there's not many notes that come in behind it. Maybe some nuttier notes, but so it's not a one note wonder, but it's definitely a one note dominant whiskey. Glass C. Quite a bit more balanced. Not any one flavor jumping out. You know, you got your cake batters in here. You got some vanilla icing. You got some cornbreads. You got some caramels. But, you know, it's a very, very balanced, very approachable. I mean, I look at Glass C. I look at Glass C as like this is. I think this is. I feel like this is what they were intending to make in the through the 50s and 70s. This is like just kind of an old feel to it to me. I really like C. I like C a lot, especially on this third round of tastings. Glass D. Not one thing jumping out, but I'd say that there's some cinnamon in here, like a little sugar cane, like some cardamom in here. So a little bit in that baking spice world. Yeah. Glass E. Really nothing jumping out here as like a dominant note. In a word, it's balance. This is one that this is a whiskey that is incredibly balanced. Really, whoever made this was very thoughtful in their approach and making sure they bottled something that was, you know, not overly forward in any one area. But there's with that comes a little bit of complexity. You can taste some. You can see there's a lot going on here. I mean, I'm getting a hint of like an oyster shell. There's that brininess in there. There's a lot going on in E, but not one note that jumps out. But at this stage in the tasting, I mean that's a safe place to be. Glass F. I mean F is just. I mean, it's just walking that fine line of being high on acid and and accepted in society. You know, it's kind of a crazy style of a whiskey, and I really love everything about F. On a personal level, and I'm trying to withdraw my personal preferences here. I mean, F is a beautiful, outstanding. You know, want to go home with it and curl up with it later kind of whiskey. Glass G, but in terms of like the dominant notes, I mean, we're talking those herbal notes I was talking about. Herbs are really jumping out here for me with that one. Glass G. Hmm. Oh yeah. G's hitting all the right spots. It's such a really beautiful, beautiful whiskey. And if I had to pick where it's ranging, it's definitely on that sweet side. It reminds me of some Nutella. Kind of, it's a little bit of like maple. There's a Nutella style, hazelnut style to this. A maple syrup, some caramel. But G is really, really special. Glass eye. This is a prominent note in this would be like a quince. Like there's a lot of like dried fruit in this as well. Just there, I like eye. I like eye. I want to keep eye. So definitely keeping eye. So let me figure out between the B, C, and D here will be our next on the block. The thing about B, it is so forward with that molasses, and not a lot's coming in underneath that. You know, as a taster, I tend to get a little nervous when something is so dominant with one note. Glass C though, Glass C's just not jumping out with really anything that can compare to anything on the table. I mean, it does have balance and just a touch of complexity. With there's a lot of stuff going on there, but everything on this table has a lot of stuff going on, and the levels of stuff going on are higher in some than others. So let's see about D here. Okay, D is definitely going to stay. So it's going to be between B and C. You know what? I like B a touch more than C, because even though it is a bit of a one note wonder, it's not, but it's a touch of that. It's telling me what it is. C is just like, oh, this is great whiskey, but there's not one thing jumping out, dominating it. So C is going into 7th place, and B will be 5th place. So C is 7th place, B is 5th place. Now we break into the top 5. And whew. Oh, man, this is a lot of work. Looks like I'm low on D. Not vitamin D, however, because I take vitamin D every single day. Hopefully my wife sees that and laughs, because she makes me take vitamin D. Okay, let's go to... So I have 5 whiskeys here, and now is the point of the tasting that I try to really laser in. So now we're going to look at the finish. So we started off with the aroma. We then went to points of the palate. How many points of the palate did it hit? Then we went to the portion that is about like concentration and flavor profile and complexity and balance. And now, like I would say, all 5 of these on the table, we're looking at glasses F, G, I, D, and E. Glasses F, G, I, D, and E. All of these are really, equal in everything that I talked about. And so now it is going to come down to finish for this next spot, and I will be a little bit more silent with this, and hopefully when I pop up, I can still verbalize what I like. That is the one thing about doing it this way versus being a being like a behind the scenes critic, like I have been in the past, and like taking notes and writing it. There's no live stream in that case, and so you can get like, yeah, what's going on, man? This one is my favorite whiskey. I mean, I don't want that, but I'm just saying, like, tasting and talking about it is very different than tasting and writing notes. It takes a little bit. It's a little bit different, and the talent and the uniqueness that every YouTuber has is what is beautiful about WhiskeyTube. I mean, I want to give a shout out to a lot of the WhiskeyTubers I love. Mash and Drum, man, I love him. Matt from ADHD Whiskey, love him. Very different in style, but entertaining nonetheless. Bourbon Junkies, and there's a lot of really, really good whiskey tubers out there that you should be tracking. And it's bourbon night to me. When I think of WhiskeyTube, I think of It's Bourbon Night. Chad and Sarah are like some of my favorite people, and period. They're just great human beings, and that's what whiskey is all about. And of course, those guys at Whiskey Vault, I mean, they don't need any shout outs from anybody, but I've had many conversations with them over the years, and they have built a brand that is amazing. But to be able to drink live and say something to the camera, that takes a talent that I did not have before I started doing this. I was more on the notepad back in the day. But anyway, I digress. So now it's time to do the finish. So now we go to the finish. Glass D. Woo! Glass D is getting all warm up on me. Still finishing. Still going. I don't want to rinse the palate out just yet because I want that to keep going, but holy smokes. D has a lot of depth. I mean, this finish, it's got layers to it. You want to see that with the whiskey. You want to see a finish that kind of lingers, and it's got layers to it. So, the finish starts with like this really nice, like peanut brittle kind of almond butter, approach, and then it jumps into like a spice, and it's like it keeps changing as it's finishing, and it's still going. And so that is an epic finish. Glass D. Wow. Glass E. And just so you know, you don't get to this stage, this length of a consideration for finish, if you don't have everything prior to. So when you say you really like a long finish, what you are really telling me is you like a whiskey that basically hits a lot of parts of your tongue. So everything that's up here, if you go back and you listen, these are all whiskeys that were hitting many parts of the tongue, and had many notes with them. Maybe they had a dominant note, but they would have other notes underneath. And so those are the whiskeys that can finish, that have lingering finishes. If a whiskey is a one-note wonder, or if it just hits the palate real quick and dissipates, it's not going to finish. So like if you want to take a try at being a professional taster, and do this kind of thing, even start your own YouTube channel, knock yourself out. But those are some of the things that I would say you want to focus on is like points of the palette. How many parts of the palette is it hitting? That is so important for understanding your palette and the finish. So glass E. E is nice, but it does not have the depth that D did. I mean, the finish is lovely, but it's not lingering. I mean, it's on the way going out. It's not rising. It's going down. So that's not good news for D. I'm sorry, that's not good news for E. Glass F. Here we go, going on the acid trip. Not that I've ever done acid, and nor do I condone the use of acid in recreational settings, unless you lived in the 60s, in which case it was cool because that's what you did. Long finish here. I would say that this is it's a much more mild finish than D, but definitely better than E. Glass G. God, that smells so good. Yeah, G's finish is powerful. It's definitely lingering, but it is not. It's not it's not tracking like D. So, I keep going. I keep looking at D. Like D's like right there. Like, hey, what's going on? You from around here? What's up? Glass eye. Glass eye is pretty intense. Very intense. Very intense with the finish. But just to confirm, I'm pretty sure Glass E is going to be your 5th place. Yeah. Glass E is going to be 5th place, which is an enormous, thing to say about it. I mean, I tasted more than 700 whiskeys this year, probably more if you count my recreational hanging out with my wife and stuff. But, we're down to the top 4. And, Glass E, when it came down to like length of finish, it just did not have the muscle. And now, after we have assessed the finish, now we kind of go into personal preference mode. But D, if we were just picking on finish alone, D is now the clear champion. I mean, D would be the champion of the finish. Like if we are looking at like what's your favorite finish, D is the clear-cut winner. That finish was amazing. Nothing touched it. But now it does come to that point as a critic or as you do go with your personal preferences. You keep it removed for as long as you can, and you do try to think about everything that you have done to get to this point. But at the end of the day, you still have things that you like and things that you don't like. And I like everything in every one of these whiskeys, and I'm just going to go through them. I'm going to rank them 4, 3, 2, 1. That's how it's going to go. So I'm very familiar with D. I don't need to approach that again. I think I need to really concentrate between F and G. and you all watching at home or however you're watching, whether it's on replay, I don't know what I'm tasting right now. So you all know. You can see by looking at the ticker. Glass G will be your fourth place winner. Glass G will be fourth place. The top three comes down to glasses D, I, and F. Glasses D, I, and F. I'm going to taste glass I. By the way, if anybody has a glass I watching this, I did not think about saying that, so I apologize. Boy, that's so good. Glass D, coming back to D. D is powerful with the finish. It's absolutely powerful. It has the depth. It has the flavor profile. But what it lacks is it lacks nothing. Let me be very frank here. It lacks absolutely nothing. But when I taste I and when I taste F, I want to go back to them. I want to go back to I and I want to go back to F. With D, I professionally broke it down and I want to sip it again, but I don't want to sip it again more than I do I and F. And this is where like an individual critic is, kind of we show our ass, if you will. Like a panel will wade through that personal preference. But when you get down to the trenches, personal preference comes in. And look, I'm one person. This is one person's opinion. You got to know that. The best opinion is your own. Use me as a guide. Use other critics as a guide. What I am saying here tonight is not the end-all, be-all. But I will tell you that Glass D wins probably 50% of the competitions that I do. Like, I think Glass D wins pretty much most of the competitions that I'm a part of. And but for me tonight, I am going back to glasses I and F more than I am D. And that is where I have to make the difficult decision that glass D is going to be in third place. And by the way, that's nothing to shake a stick at. I mean, I tasted more than 700 products here officially in the year. And, to come in third, for me is a big friggin' deal. And, whatever glass D is, it is absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. But when it came down to it, I was wanting to go back to I, and I was wanting to go back to F. And that's really what we're talking about here. So I'm going to make that decision now. What's going to be number one? We'll find out. I mean, I keep going back to F as like I'm high on acid. Not that I've ever done acid. Or shrooms. Not that I've ever done shrooms. It's kind of trippy. Oh, man. It is fucking good. I have two children, two beautiful little boys, Oscar and Julian. And, you know, one of my favorite books is Sophie's Choice. And I could not imagine having to choose between my children. But we are looking at something like that. And both I and F are stellar. They're both stellar. But F is one that is real trippy. It's real out there. And I got to be in a mood for it. I got to be in a mood for whatever F is. And tonight, I'm in a mood. I'm in a mood for whatever F is. I can't say for tomorrow. But I think I is something that I would like to drink every single day for the rest of my life. So that is why I is my best American whiskey of 2021. So cheers to whatever I is. I am now going to grab this, pull this off, and find out what won. Okay. So you all have known what was what. I haven't known shit. So, okay. So, glass. All right. So where are we at here? So at 10th place, Jack Daniel's 10-year-old came in at 10th place. That is a shocker because I really like that. Bardstown Bourbon Company, Triple Stave, is in 9th place. Kuiper Belt coming in strong at 7th. Angel's Envy Madeira Cask came in 6th. Old Forester Birthday Bourbon came in 5th. Remus came in 4th. Came in 5th. And wait, what did I say? B. What was B? Yeah, I said that one. After that one was Remus, and then the one after Remus was Eagle Rare. I thought D was a dark horse for me because I loved it so much. So coming in third's a big deal. Little Book Chapter 5. And the winner coming in second was Barrel Seagrass. And the winner was Russell's Reserve 13-year-old. So, there you go. Russell's Reserve 13-year-old won my best American whiskey. Wow. Well, that was fun. I am now seeing your comments, and I'm going to take a look at some of them and answer a few questions. Most people saying, like, how much harder it's going to be to find them. Well, that part I cannot help with. I can just, I enjoy what I do, and I love being, I mean, let's face it, I have the best job in the world, and I'm excited to get the opportunity to do this. So thank you for tuning in, first of all. But when you taste whiskey and you give your opinion on something, those are some of the ramifications. It's a repercussion of it. Like, I can't find a lot of the things that I used to buy on a regular basis, and it is what it is. But let's see here. Any other questions? Oh wow, you guys were really crazy here tonight. Really crazy. Mash and Drum says, I'm surprised JD was in the top 10. It was a miss for him. Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about it all, Jason, is like having a palate is a is a bit of a gamble with the critic, right? So some people like things, some people don't, and that's why panels really do make for good uh, decision making as a body. But my old buddy David Hall says you should be smoking a cigar at the same time. That's a good idea. I'm all in for that. I am all in for that. But if you haven't already, folks, hit that like button. It helps me with the algorithm. It helps me with um, telling people about the channel. It helps me with everything that I do. So hit the like button. Tell a friend about the channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. But I've got a construction crew back here who's waiting to get back to work, and I am really excited to go have a drink and some dinner with my wife. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for being a part of this. How much time was in setting this up? Lots of time. So thank you all so much for tuning in and being a big help to what I'm trying to do here, which is tell people about good whiskey. And you got to remember, man, Russell's Reserve 13-year-old did not exist a few years ago. So your enthusiasm, your appreciation for whiskey, it brings those good whiskeys to the forefront. And sometimes they're hard to get, but you being involved, you being a part of this community, you are helping to get good whiskey on your shelf. So cheers to you all. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Be safe out there. And congratulations to Russell's Reserve 13-year-old for winning tonight. By the way, that was purchased at retail, not given to me by a distillery, and a gift from my friend Max Stoller. He is now writing in the whiskey community, so check him out. So wherever he writes for Whiskey Raiders, so go check him out over there.